Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I am Muneeb Hamid with the news of this hour. Let's begin with the headlines first. Pakistan says Indian forces are subjecting unarmed Kashmiri youth to state terrorism by targeting them in fake encounters. In a statement, Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi said occupation forces are spreading fear in the valley through oppression and persecution. This comes after a police report said Indian soldiers planted weapons on the bodies of 3 Kashmiri slain rebels. In India, the enraged farmers have called for a nationwide protest on New Year's Day to demand the repeal of new farm laws. Meanwhile, Congress leader Priyanka Gandhi says the government should talk to farmers and take back the black laws. Since late November, farmers have been camping on Delhi borders against the reforms they say only favour big corporates. European ambassadors have given the go-ahead for a post-Brexit trade deal to come into effect on the 1st of January. The deal, which was agreed on last week, will preserve tariff-free trade in goods between the EU and UK. The agreement is expected to be officially signed off by the two sides on Wednesday. "17 fishermen are feared dead after a Russian boat capsized during a storm and sank in the Barents Sea. Officials say 2 people have been rescued during a search operation, but bad weather conditions are making it difficult to find survivors. South Africa has crossed 1 million cases of coronavirus days after a new strain linked to the UK was detected there. South Korea is also the latest state to report cases of the new variant. Meanwhile, in Pakistan, the virus has claimed 55 lives and infected nearly 2,000 people overnight. The nationwide death toll has risen to 9,929. Globally, there are 1.7 million fatalities and 80 million cases. And in tennis, Roger Federer will miss the Australian Open next year for the first time in his career as he recovers from knee surgery. His spokesperson says the 6-time champion aims to work on his fitness and decided to return to action after the event. The 20-time Grand Slam winner has not played since January. These were the headlines. News in detail after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now let's have the news in detail. Pakistan says Indian forces are subjecting unarmed Kashmiri youth to state terrorism by targeting them in fake encounters. This comes after Indian police charge an army officer and 2 others for planting weapons on 3 slain Kashmiri labourers. In a statement, Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi said occupation forces are spreading fear in the valley through oppression and persecution. He said young Kashmiris are being presented as terrorists and fake cases are registered against them to misguide the world. But Qureshi said the world has understood Indian designs and Delhi's grip over the valley is weakening. Meanwhile, Foreign Office spokesperson Zahid Hafiz Chaudhry expressed concern over the illegal detention of Kashmiri leaders. He said their health is deteriorating due to inhumane treatment in jails amid a pandemic. Now, Indian police have charged an army officer and 2 associates for planting weapons on 3 slain Kashmiri labourers. The officers made them look as though they were rebels in a staged gun battle in July. A police statement said Captain Bhupinder Singh has been charged with murder, conspiracy and other offences. He is now in military detention and others are in police custody. The families of the victims say the three were only looking for work in Kashmir's apple orchards. In September, the Indian Army admitted its soldiers had exceeded powers under the controversial Armed Forces Special Powers Act, with special accords impunity to soldiers in the killing of the civilians. Now, for more on this, we have with us Gohar Gilani, a Kashmiri-based journalist. Thank you very much, Mr. Gohar. Now, there is an outrage after police reports suggest Indian troops planted weapons on the bodies of three innocent Kashmiri civilians to make it look as though they were armed fighters. So, do you think India could fool the world through such fake tactics?
What I'm saying is that these incidents, that the recent incident that you're talking about, these were three boys who were from Rajouri in Poonch region, who had come to Shopaya in South Kashmir for work purpose. And then they were killed and dubbed as militants, armed militants. Guns were planted on their bodies. But this is not the first incident, and unfortunately it won't be the last, because the last 30 years tell us that we had an infamous fake encounter and extrajudicial killings in Chatti Singhpura in South Kashmir, when 5 laborers were similarly killed and later dubbed as armed militants. But it turned out after DNA tests that they were all local laborers who were killed in extrajudicial manner. Similarly, in North Kashmir, Hill sector, there were 3 again civilians killed and later dubbed as militants. So human rights groups say that these incidents are reported ones, but we have a fair number of incidents which go unreported. So this courage, if you call it this cowardice as courage, this comes from this belief that there is not going to be any accountability from the international community or from the institutions that are there.
Right, Gohar, now, India has long been denying United Nations observers access to the occupied valley. Amnesty has also closed its operation, citing New Delhi's pressure. In this scenario, what options now Kashmiris are left with to put up their case?
In a case where the battle is between the dispossessed, marginalized, disadvantaged, weak, against a mighty army, against a mighty economy, there are no options. What can you do? You can't do anything because you're a weaker party. And no matter how strong your case is, ultimately the world goes by, in fact, dictated by your economic relations. Germany has to sell Volkswagen, France has to sell Rafale to India. And this is how the story about all other countries where these human rights violations take place. They have businesses to do with other countries. So, this is how it is. A weaker party does not have many options.
Right, Gohar Gilani, a Kashmir-based journalist. Thank you very much for talking to Indus News. Still in India, as the furious farmers have called for a nationwide protest on New Year's Day to demand the repeal of new laws. Farm unions urge the public to support their struggle against the contentious agricultural reforms. They also called for rallies in Patna and Thanjavur on December 29th and in Manipur and Hyderabad on December 30th. Meanwhile, Congress has decided to launch a dialogue program in Rajasthan to support the farmers. Leaders Priyanka Gandhi said the government should talk to the farmers and take back the black laws. More farmers from Maharashtra have joined the protest at Rajasthan-Haryana border, which has emerged as a new epicenter of the ongoing agitation. Farmers have been camping on Delhi borders for over a month now. Now moving to Afghanistan, where at least 1 security official was killed and 2 others wounded in a Taliban attack on Anandara district police headquarters. Local officials say the incident took place at the night in Farah province. The Farah governor says Taliban detonated a car laden with explosives near the head office. It said security forces killed several fighters in the clearing operation. The Taliban have not commented on the attack yet. Meanwhile, the next round of talks between Kabul and the Taliban will be held in Qatar from next month. This comes despite President Ashraf Ghani's recent calls for them to be moved home. Now, Azerbaijan says 1 serviceman was killed in an attack by Armenian forces in Nagorno-Karabakh. In a tweet, the Defense Ministry said an armed group attacked units of the Azeri army in Khojav Bend. It said all 6 members of the illegal Armenian armed group were killed in retaliatory measures. The Defense Ministry warned of firm measures if such incidents recur in the future. Meanwhile, Armenian authorities have denied the clashes between ethnic Armenian and Azeri forces. Spanning over 2 months, the conflict came to an end with a Russian-brokered ceasefire agreement. Meanwhile, Russia has sent additional units of military police to northern Syria's town of Isa. The deployment follows the latest cross-border clashes in the area. In a statement, Russian Defense Ministry said Moscow noted the unstable situation in the region. It said the deployment aimed to step up efforts to stabilize the turbulent situation. Moscow urged both sides to de-escalate the tensions. The move comes ahead of talks between the foreign ministers of Russia and Turkey today. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov will discuss Syria and other issues with his counterpart Mevlut Cavusoglu. Still, Russia says NATO's growing air and naval activity near its borders may cause major incidents. Deputy Defense Minister Alexander Fomin said this in an interview to the state-linked paper. Fomin said many actions of NATO, the US and the UK were openly provocative. He said incidents were avoided thanks to the high professionalism of Russian air pilots and sailors. Fomin stressed he will strongly advise all to refrain from trying to treat Russia from the position of strength. He said threats to use force are a direct violation of the UN Charter and such actions will get a proper response. Meanwhile, Lebanon's Hezbollah says it can strike anywhere in Israel and occupied Palestinian territories. In an interview, leader Hassan Nasrallah said the group has twice as many precision-guided missiles now as it had a year ago. Nasrallah said Hezbollah warned it would retaliate when Israel threatened to target a facility in the eastern Bekaa region. He also said the last few weeks of the Trump administration were critical and called Trump angry and crazy. Nasrallah repeated vows that Iran and its allies will avenge the U.S. killing of Qasem Soleimani. He also promised to avenge Israel's killing of a Hezbollah fighter in Syria earlier this year. Moving on, senior Egyptian security officials are in Libya's capital Tripoli for the first time since 2014. In a statement, the Libyan Interior Ministry said the delegation held talks with the government of national accord. It said the GNA Interior Minister Fatih Bashagha and Egypt's intelligence head Imad Trabelsi discussed ways to support the ceasefire agreement. They also discussed outputs of the 5+5 committee. In a tweet, Bashagha termed the meeting fruitful and described relations with Cairo as very important. The Egyptian delegation also called on GNA Foreign Minister Mohammed Tahir Siala. Mohamed El-Geblawi, a spokesman for the foreign minister, said Cairo promised to reopen its embassy in Tripoli. Now in Niger, vote counting is underway after an election that could lead to the country's first peaceful transition of power since its independence. Almost 7.5 million people cast their vote on Sunday to choose a successor to President Mahamadou Issoufou. He is stepping down after 2 5-year terms, leading the country of 23 million. Results are expected within 5 days and will take 2 weeks for them to be ratified by the Constitutional Court. Elections were held amid security concerns, but officials believe it has been a success for Niger. Now, European ambassadors have given the go-ahead for a post-Brexit trade deal to come into effect on the 1st of January. The deal, which was agreed on last week, will preserve tariff-free trade in goods between the European Union and United Kingdom. The agreement is expected to be officially signed off by the two sides on Wednesday. Senior British Minister Michael Gove warns there will be bumpy moments for British businesses as they get to grips with the new EU rules. But he added that there will be procedural changes when the Brexit transition period ends on the 31st of December. Britain left the EU in January, but it remains under its trading rules until the end of this year. Now, China has called on the United States to stop using Taiwan to meddle in its domestic affairs. This comes after U.S. President Donald Trump signed into law the Taiwan Assurance Act, which enhances Taipei's self-defense capacities. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Chao Lijian was speaking at a daily news briefing in Beijing. He said Beijing also rejects the recently approved legislation on Tibet, which calls for the establishment of an American consulate in Lhasa and the absolute rights of Tibetans to choose a successor to the Dalai Lama. Commenting on Hong Kong, Chow said U.S. remarks calling for the release of 12 fugitives disregard facts. More news coming up in this bulletin after a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now moving on with the news stories. United States President Donald Trump has signed a $2.3 trillion COVID relief and spending package into law. The move has averted a partial government shutdown on Tuesday. In a statement, Trump said he asked Congress to reduce wasteful spending and increase paychecks to the Americans. White House Deputy Press Secretary Jude Deere said a red line version will be sent back to Congress, but the bill, as signed, will not necessarily be changed. Lawmakers are now having breathing room to continue debating whether to revise the stimulus checks. The Democrat-led House is set to vote on the issue today. Republicans and Democrats have swiftly welcomed the President's decision to sign the bill into law. Now, South Africa has crossed 1 million cases of coronavirus days after a new strain linked to the United Kingdom was detected there. South Korea is also the latest state to report cases of the new variant. Globally, there are 1.7 million fatalities and 80 million cases. More on coronavirus in this report.
The frightening surge of COVID-19 and inoculations against the virus are treating the world hand in hand at this stage of the pandemic. Brazil's Vice President Hamilton Mourão has tested positive as the country registered 344 new deaths. U.S. top infectious disease expert Anthony Fauci has warned that the holiday travel can push the country to a critical point in the pandemic, while Mexico continued its vaccination plan by focusing on doctors, nurses and soldiers.
This is very important because we have to protect those who protect us. These people, especially those in the front line, are in contact with sick people. If they get sick, two things happen. One, they can transmit the disease not only to other patients but also to their families. Second, they would stop going to work.
A new faster-spreading variant of the virus has prompted more than 50 countries to impose travel restrictions on Britain. Saudi Arabia has extended a ban on entry to the kingdom by air, land and sea for another week. Meanwhile, France, Spain, Germany and Greece have started vaccinating elderly care home residents first. Meanwhile, Sydney is scaling back its New Year celebrations and has banned large gatherings that night amid an outbreak. South Korean officials say they will speed up efforts to launch a public coronavirus vaccination program. Elsewhere, local authorities in China are implementing strong epidemic prevention and control measures to curb the rebound and import of COVID-19 cases during the winter season.
Meanwhile, in Pakistan, 55 people have lost their lives to COVID-19 over the past 24 hours. This pushes the country's death toll to 9,929. Health officials reported 1,974 new infections overnight. Meanwhile, there are more than 39,000 active cases in the country. The Health Ministry says out of 473,000 countrywide cases, more than 423,000 people have recovered. Meanwhile, Pakistan International Airlines is resuming commercial flights to Saudi Arabia to bring back stranded Pakistanis. The year 2020 is set to become the deadliest in U.S. history. Preliminary estimates by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention show the number of deaths may exceed 3.2 million. CDC's mortality statistics chief Robert Anderson said life expectancy in the U.S. can drop as much as 3 full years. Facing an acute surge in deaths, U.S. states are using and purchasing refrigerator trailers to store more bodies. In a statement, Los Angeles County Public Health Director Barbara Ferrer said a person dies every 10 minutes in the area from COVID. With patients flooding hospitals and ICUs across the U.S., medical staff have long been overwhelmed. In the U.S. state of Tennessee, Nashville, police have named the suspect in the camper van blast on Christmas Day. The blast left 3 people injured and disrupted communication systems in Tennessee and 4 other states. Officials said DNA collected at the scene matched that of a 63-year-old Anthony Quinn Warner. They said Warner blew himself up in the explosion and appears to have acted alone. Public records show Warner lived in Antioch, southwest of Nashville, and his home was searched by FBI on Saturday. The FBI said there was no sign of more suspects and it was too early to suggest a motive.
Based on the evidence that we've gathered at this point, we've come to the conclusion that an individual named Anthony Warner is the bomber, that he was present when the bomb went off, and that he perished in the bombing. We base this conclusion on forensic evidence, including DNA evidence that you'll hear about, as well as evidence that was gathered at the scene of the bombing.
Now, a Florida-based U.S. serviceman has been charged in the nighttime shooting that killed 3 people in Rockford, Illinois, Winnebago County State Attorney Jay Handley said Duke Webb was indicted for 3 counts of murder. He said the 37-year-old serviceman was also charged with 3 counts of first-degree attempted murder. Duke Webb was taken into custody shortly after the incident as he tried to conceal his weapon. Rockford Police Chief Dan O'Shea said Webb was an active military man and investigators were in touch with the U.S. Army. O'Shea said the suspect had no known ties to the victims, adding that the shooting was a random act. Now, the European Union has termed Pakistan a very safe place for foreign tourists and travellers. EU Ambassador Androla Kaminara said Pakistan is the land of hospitality and natural beauty. In an interview, Kaminara said a huge tourism potential exists in the country, particularly the stunning north. She said Pakistan is lucky to have 6 World Heritage Sites. She said culture is an important part of European Union's strategic engagement plan with Pakistan. She hoped more tourists from around the world could see the beauty that this country has to offer. Moving on, 17 fishermen are feared dead after a Russian boat capsized during a storm and sank in the Barents Sea. Officials say 2 people have been rescued during a search operation, but bad weather conditions are making it difficult to find the survivors. The privately owned boat sank near the Novaya Zemlya archipelago in the Barents Sea. Officials believe that ice had built up on the Russian-flagged vessel, which caused it to sink. Now, preparations are underway in New York as workers begin installing a new design of the Times Square New Year's Ball. For a city struck early by COVID-19 and with the death toll nearing 25,000, many will welcome the chance to turn the page on 2020. This year's design is set to represent the gift of happiness. The event will be headlined by Gloria Gaynor, Jennifer Lopez, Billy Porter and Jimmy Allen. There will be fewer than 100 people at the crossroads of the world to ring in 2021. Doctors, nurses, teachers and other essential workers will be invited to enjoy the celebration in socially distant pens, while everyone else watches from home. Now, the box office earnings of Wonder Woman 1984 have hit a pandemic high in a cinema and streaming showdown. The superhero franchise pulled in nearly $36.1 million at theaters worldwide over the Christmas holiday weekend.
The AT&T-owned studio Warner Brothers said around $16.7 million of the total came from U.S. and Canadian theaters. This ranks as the highest domestic box office opening since the coronavirus shuttered theaters in March. In a statement, HBO Max said the movie was also watched by millions at home in the U.S. via streaming. It said the total viewing hours on HBO Max tripled compared with a typical day. Warner Brothers has also confirmed plans for another movie in the franchise. It said the 3rd movie will also be written and directed by Patty Jenkins and star Gal Gadot as a lasso-wielding warrior.
Fresh snowfall in the Himalayan region of India overnight brought joy to tourists, but it also intensified the cold wave in the upper belt of the country. Details in this report.
Winter shore is a sight to savor in the Himalayas, the highest mountain range in the world. A fresh blizzard dusted the peaks overnight and brought out tourists to frolic with the snow. Officials say all roads in the upper city of Shimla were blocked due to snowfall. However, some in Rajouri were made operational after clearing snow in the morning.
Recently, there was heavy snowfall along the Pir Panjal range. Today, the valley also received heavy snowfall. The cold wave has intensified very strongly because of the snowfall.
The snowfall in Shimla continued overnight, taking the temperatures to sub-zero levels in the surrounding areas as well.
We came here yesterday morning and it was very sunny. We didn't think it would get this cold all of a sudden today. When we woke up in the morning and came to the ridge, everything was white. We are enjoying the snow.
The Indian Meteorological Department has warned of a further cold wave across the country, with more snow and rains forecast till the new year.
Now in Colombia, a restaurant is offering a juicy 24-carat gold-topped hamburger for a whopping $60, whereas the price of a regular Big Mac is $5. More about the gold burger in this report.
A gold burger was unheard of until a restaurant in Bogota introduced it. The owner of the Colombian Toro McCoy restaurant says he was inspired by restaurants in Turkey where they serve a similar burger.
The idea of the McCoy Gold was born from a trip made by the owner of Toro McCoy to Turkey. He ate the steak with gold leaf, so he decided to bring the idea here to Colombia. It is a unique idea because you don't have to travel to try an experience like this.
The hamburger is sandwiched with double beef patties, caramelized bacon, crispy onions, and double cheese between the brioche bread. Finally, the burger is topped with 5 pieces of 24K edible gold leaves that are imported from the US. Each sheet of gold is 0.0015 millimeters thick.
People who have come to eat it say it is worth it. But there are also people who say they prefer to buy clothes or shoes for the cost of the hamburger, but that's their point of view.
The owner of the restaurant hopes to bring new culinary experience to Colombian diners unable to travel due to the coronavirus pandemic.
We still have news for you in this bulletin, but after a short break, stay with us. Now, with Britain and the European Union having clinched a deal, the UK is pursuing trade deals with the US, Australia and other countries in the Indo-Pacific region. Foreign Secretary Dominic Raab said London will engage in trade deals with a huge growth market for the future. Trade Minister Liz Truss said Britain and Turkey will sign a deal that replicates the existing terms between Ankara and London. She said they expect to sign tariff-free trade agreements this week in the manufacturing, automotive and steel industries. US stocks have hit record highs as President Donald Trump's signing of a pandemic aid bill boosted bets on an economic recovery. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is trading higher marginally. The S&P 500 is trading higher by about 0.5%, whereas the Nasdaq Composite is trading fractionally higher. Meanwhile, oil prices also climbed on US stimulus passage along the UK vaccine approval. Now, in tennis, 6-time champion Roger Federer will miss the Australian Open for the first time in his career as he continues his recovery from his knee surgery. The 20-time Grand Slam winner has not played since January because of 2 operations. Federer has played in the Australian Open 21 years in a row, but his agent says missing the event is better for him in the long run. He last played in a competitive match against Novak Djokovic this year, Australian Open semi-final. The 2021 Australian Open starts on 8th of February in Melbourne after being pushed back 3 weeks due to the pandemic. Now, Pakistan were all out for 239 runs at the end of the 3rd day of the first test against New Zealand at Bay Oval. New Zealand will begin the second innings with a 192-run lead tomorrow in Mount Maunganui. Fahim Ashraf remained the top scorer for the Greens with 91 runs. Kyle Jamieson was the pick of the bowlers for his 3 wickets for 35 runs. Earlier, New Zealand were bowled out for 431 runs, with Kane Williamson top scoring with 129 runs. The second match is slated for 3rd of January at Hagley Oval in Christchurch. The Pakistan Navy has conferred the honorary rank of lieutenant to cricketer Fakhr Zaman. The rank has been conferred in a bid to acknowledge his achievements in cricket as well as his association with the Navy. Chief of the Naval Staff Admiral Muhammad Amjad Khan Niazi congratulated Zaman for his achievements for Pakistan in cricket. Zaman is a former Pakistan Navy serviceman and joined the forces in 2007 as a sailor with the operations branch. In 2012, he made his international debut in cricket while he was still serving in the Pakistan Navy. Zaman's major achievements include a match-winning century against India in the final of the ICC Champions Trophy in 2017. Now in the English Premier League, West Bromwich Albion snatched a 1-1 draw against champions Liverpool at Anfield. A late header by Sami Ajayi cancelled out Sadio Mane's opener, stunning the Reds. Liverpool manager Jurgen Klopp said the draw with West Brom felt like a defeat. He said the players were angry at missing the opportunity to go 5 points clear in the league. Liverpool are frustrated as they already missing defenders Virgil van Dijk and Joe Gomez due to long-term injuries. In another fixture, Wolverhampton Wanderers scored a late equaliser against Tottenham Hotspur and drew 1-1. Football star Cristiano Ronaldo has been named Player of the Century at the Globe Soccer Awards. The Portuguese beat long-time rival Argentine Lionel Messi to be crowned with the title. Details in this report.
At a ceremony held in Dubai, the Juventus star forward picked up his award in person.
Ladies and gentlemen, the first ever Dubai Globe Soccer Awards Player of the Century is Cristiano Ronaldo!
The 5-time Ballon d'Or winner said his success was not possible without a team, great coaches and clubs. In honor of his managerial career, Manchester City's manager Pep Guardiola was named Coach of the Century. Bayern Munich striker Robert Lewandowski won the race for Men's Player of the Year award. The German club's coach Hansi Flick was also rewarded as Coach of the Year. Real Madrid was named Club of the Century, with Bayern picking up the Team Award for 2020. Founded in 2010, the Globe Soccer Awards acknowledge excellence in football with an annual gala dinner and awards ceremony.
And now let's have a look at the weather updates across the world. That is all for now. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at indus.news. Take care.